COMESA has implemented the program on sanitary and phytosanitary measures for a number of years now, since 2008. And the program has its focus on plant health, animal health, and food safety, and mainly looking at regulations that are applied to trade, for countries to trade with each other, but also to trade with other blocs like the European Union or the US market.
This is a new regulation from the United States of America, which try to put in place the preventive measures to make sure that the human public health is preserved. And it is preserved from what they are consuming. This is why this regulation is targeting the exporting countries to US.
As you know, many of the COMESA countries have benefited from the Africa Growth Opportunities Act, where they've been extended duty-free status for a number of agricultural products. But while they may have duty-free status, they also have to comply with import conditions which relate to plant health or animal health or food safety. So in 2011, the United States instituted a new law, which they call the Food Safety Modernization Act, and is now enforcing a number of regulations under that law which relate to human health. So what this means for our countries is that they have to have systems that comply with these regulations.
Meru Greens is an agro-processing company that began in 1995. It began as a company that produces and sells fruits and vegetables. However, the agro-processing part of it began 3 years ago, where we process green beans and yellow beans for the export market. The American market is large. It's a viable market for us, and it is one that we are really interested in venturing into. But the unfortunate bit of what is holding us back as of now is the insufficient knowledge we have of the requirements of venturing into that market.
We are realizing that when we access the US market, for example, we have to comply with certain requirements like the FSMA, and we realized that we have to undergo certain trainings and then have somebody who is qualified to be able to address the issues that the market would require.
Like when you look at the technical trade barriers, they have specifications which we have to meet. They have required tests that they require us to do for their products. Some tests are out of our scope. Like they want MRL analysis. They want you to do pesticide residue analysis for all the consignments.
Then there's the other barrier to trade also, in terms of people are now more consciously aware about the social impacts that you have as an exporter, or you have as a business person, on the environment as well as the society. As you can see, like for us right now, you can see that there are so many staff that are working in production. So how well do you treat your workers? So that has brought up another certification that is required by the market called GRASP. So this is at the pack house, but there's also GRASP, where you also have to take care of the farm gate level. The people who are working at the farm, how well are they taken care of?
The aspect of trying to integrate these standards, the different requirements, the different market requirements, we are looking at it that yes, as much as it is good for us in terms of accessing these markets, there are a lot of costs that are attached to them, that if you're not able to get the necessary support, it becomes also a burden to us.
The first thing we did a baseline survey to understand the products that are facing regulatory hurdles in terms of accessing the US market. We also looked at the systems that the government has, the laboratory systems, to understand the constraints the laboratories may have in terms of providing certificates of analysis to the companies that are exporting to the US.
under the FSMA, we have got capacity gaps. And one, you realize that the FSMA as a requirement, it requires that all the produce that is going to the market must meet things like, certain requirements like maximum residual limits, microbiological hazards, things like allergens and other likes, other requirements. But when you look at the FSMA Act, you find that, and with regard to our FBOs, you find that there are gaps. How? Because this Modernization Act, okay, has not been well internalized by the FBOs, and you realize that they don't understand most of the requirements of this FSMA Act.
Testing of allergen becomes critical. So that was a challenge to us, because in Kenya, we've never heard about that, neither we also heard about that in Africa. So that by itself, we are seeing it as a potential challenge to us.
We need to invest in quality infrastructure. If we move around our countries, you will find a lot of gaps in terms of labs to give assurance that the food we are eating is safe. Now, where there are labs, those labs are not equipped in terms of quality, and this is why they are not accredited.
We identify those gaps and we close them by providing technical support and training to the laboratories that will be providing these services, testing services, to the facilities that intend to export to the US market.
So one of the requirements when you're getting into export is that the first thing is you should be able to actually trace where the food is coming. You trace where your grower is. You're supposed to also be able to trace what kind of pesticides, what kind of any chemicals that have, what kind of fertilizer that was used. So you have to record that. And that gives us sort of the standards that are set in the Europe, where we have to record and let them know what's there. And then everything that you're exporting has to go through an inspection, and for us the inspection is done by KEFIS.
We are mainly dealing with assuring the quality of agro inputs and also fresh produce. And when we talk of agro inputs, we are talking of things like assuring the quality of fertilizers, which is a very critical agro input. Looking at the soil fertility, which is also a critical agro input. Water suitability for irrigation is also a critical agro input. Then we also look at now the fresh produce, the quality of the fresh produce with regard to compliance to maximum residue levels, which is a very critical requirement by the exporting or maybe importing countries.
When we'll be sending our product to US, definitely it means we'll have to put a label. This label requires us to put the information relating to the nutritional values as an authentication of what really we are supplying to the market. We have tried to access a lab in Kenya. Apparently, we have not been able to get one. It therefore means we have to incur an additional cost in terms of sending it to any the laboratories that are properly or rather, which have the capacity to do that. An example is like we have to take it to Eurofins. We are not so sure as we stand whether US will restrict us to a particular laboratory that we'll have to take the sample to.
Where they want us to put some labeling requirements which sometimes we don't understand. Like when they tell us, put the picture of the allergen on the box. But we are not understanding. Sometimes we just say we wrote macadamia as allergen. They say no, we say, so it's about like instruction, communication. And also their requirements, like when they say give us your food safety plan. We just think food safety plan is, we just anticipate with what we have.
And we're also reaching out to the companies themselves, into the factory facilities, and we put in place a food safety plan that is responding to the requirements of the US regulations. Because when it comes to food safety, human health, and even when it comes to plant health and animal health, the markets that we are targeting for export do not compromise. It's either or. You comply or we reject.
We had a rejection which was done some time back, and we just stopped business with that customer because we did not know why the rejection and we did not understand But now that the rejection cost us a whole container going and it coming back. I may not have the exact figures, but it's a full container load of product going and coming back.
We have a training program that's reaching out to key enterprises, key value chains, more especially to the US. We are looking at spices, specialty food market. We are looking at nuts and grains. So we've been training a number of these facilities and giving them a roadmap or technical support for them to put in place food safety plans that are compliant with US regulations.
So Myonga Fresh Greens is one of the beneficiaries of the COMESA training that was for the FSMA PCQI certificate, and for us that was very, very essential. It came at a very timely time for us because one, we were looking to get entry into different markets, but we did not have the certificate. So for us to get the training from COMESA, especially the fact that the training was actually conducted in Kenya and it was sponsored by COMESA, one, it saved us the time, it saved us even the cost of trying to get the certificate.
There's some customer who said, I will not pick any of your product until you have a trained PCQI. You know, we had told them we don't have, and we didn't know where to. And we thought the process was very big because it was entailing someone going to US and taking a course and coming back. But we had told them we will try. So when the customer said, I will not buy from you when you don't have, you know, we are losing. All of them are going away, all the American. But immediately we got the training for FSMA and we shared with them the certificates. They bought the consignment which was already on the US. So they did not wait, they bought immediately. So that was a big win for us.
It helped us, one, to open us new markets because immediately after the training, we got some requests from clients who wanted a product and they asked us for one certification and we told them, okay, we do not have this, but what we actually have is this alternative certificate. Then they were able to see that they could work with us because they know that the training that we had undergone was really critical in the sense that it addressed all the critical points and critical areas that are required when it comes to food safety.
COMESA did the best in ensuring that we are furnished with the relevant information that is required in the US market. So far, that information has helped us quite a great deal in trying to develop an integrated quality and food safety management system. And therefore, we are so confident that by the time we'll be accessing the market, we are already privy to all the applicable information. As a matter of fact, it will not require us to go and get an expert from outside because we are privileged to have undergone through a rigorous training and we can boast of having at least a qualified individual under what's called PCQI, a preventive control qualified individual. So by having such an individual on site is a plus to us because the information is available within us. We can be able to extend, we can be able to really understand the details of the market, and it's a plus to us.
And when we did the analysis, we can say that when you have certification, you can increase your revenues 25% more. And then if you're actually dealing not just in raw commodities, you're dealing in value-added products, you can actually increase it to 50 to 60% more. So that is our hope, that this is what entry into the US markets will give us as a company.
We had the processors who are competitors coming to one forum and sharing ideas. And for us to come up with those allergen plans and all that, we shared a lot of ideas which went into improvement in our various facilities. And also we were able to network, and now when someone is hearing something, they can tell you, there's this thing I'm hearing. So we are able even to notify ourselves, my customer is asking for this. Is it the same on your end, or how are you going about it? We are now able to converse and consult.
The training that we provide actually gives them a certified individual in that company. To have a qualified individual in your company is already assurance to the US importer that you understand the US regulations and that you are building a food safety plan that's compliant. It's the first step in fulfilling the requirements of the US food safety regulations.
Having added the knowledge that we are getting from the FSMA, it now helps us to have a well-integrated quality and food safety management system that will ensure a lot of confidence in the product that will be coming from Meru Greens. And the information we got actually from FSMA, there were some very interesting new things that came, and it has also helped us to really use the materials that were provided as an annex, also as a reference document in trying to develop that quality and food safety management system.
Now that we have the certification, now we really need to go out to the US and showcase our products. So if they could select some of the companies that they have already trained, and they are seeing that these companies are actually applying what they have been training on, and showcase them in these platforms, showcase them in these trade exchange fairs, where these companies in the US can actually test our product and see we are just as good, if not better, because most of our product is naturally grown without chemicals.
I think what is also very crucial is that the retooling that we are doing for the auditors in a very sustainable way, because we are working with the bureaus of standards who already have auditors who have general auditing skills but do not understand the specifics of the US market. So we are working with one company already accredited by the Food and Drug Authority of the United States to retool these people who are in these institutions, to give them the techniques and to give them the knowledge and the know-how, and to be able to provide this service to the companies on a sustainable basis. That too reduces the cost of these companies quite significantly, because if they had to get an auditor, say from the United States, each visit of an auditor would cost about $5,000.
What we are advising our government is to look at the key important priority investment to be made in food safety, so that at least we start not only consuming, quality food, but also to give minimum guarantee when it comes to export the good we have, in our countries.